Well, hello, everybody. Hi there. It is so good to be connecting with everyone here, and hopefully you're able to see me just fine. I am really excited for us coming together in this next level of the conversation that we've started the last few weeks and what we will be able to do together. One of the things that I think is going to be absolutely incredible to talk about today is living in this world of remote and hybrid work. Of course, there has been a tremendous amount of conversation in this space over the course of the last number of years. Organizations that in some cases they were thrust into this environment of remote and hybrid work. In other cases, they had already invested in remote and hybrid work. I just was getting a message that we don't have video, so let me just check on that real quick and make sure that we've got that happening. Bear with me just for a second here. Let me talk while I'm also doing a little bit of troubleshooting. So first off, in the world of remote and hybrid work, one of the things that is exceptionally powerful and exceptionally important for us is knowing that indeed, there we are. Hi there, everyone. Knowing that indeed the availability of hybrid and remote work certainly allows us to access talent around the world. And those of you who know me, I've been a proponent for years about the idea of having this global market, this global labor market, and the opportunities that are there, and technology catching up to us in that. And then, of course, being in the world, the pandemic, and kind of being in that context, as I mentioned, it thrust a lot of organizations into the world of remote and hybrid work structures. And it also enabled or supported those organizations that were leading the thought around remote and hybrid structures, or global structures. Let's just call them that, global organization structures. So first off, we want to acknowledge that has been an important conversation for organizations in the HR profession, and as leaders and entrepreneurs and businesses. That's been an important point of conversation. Okay, now enter in this really exciting conversation that we're having around AI, artificial intelligence, and humanoid robotics. And so the whole point of our coming together each week is to explore this intersection of humanity and technology. And how do we leverage technology? How do we leverage AI? How is it disrupting the way that we've done work historically? How do we take advantage of it? How do we do that in an ethical way? How do we use it to accelerate what we're doing? So now we've got this fantastic, I think, phenomenal opportunity to talk about how can we leverage AI and humanoid robotics to bring the levels of efficiency and connection and those things that are really important for us as humans in a work environment, to be able to bring more of that into the hybrid remote work structure. Okay. So that's where our conversation is going to focus today, is around the hybrid work environment, the remote work environment, and driving for excellence in that space. Excellence defined by connectivity, clarity, focus, results, execution. Okay. Being able to have the right people working on the right things with the right knowledge to execute faster, faster, faster. And I'll share a little nugget that I heard from Peter Diamandis just day before yesterday that just blew my mind. Some of the work that they've been doing, Peter Diamandis and his partners around X Factor, X Prize, and all of these things. So we'll come back to that in a second. You can tell I'm uber excited about this conversation. So how do we leverage AI and humanoid robotics in this space? So first of all, if you don't know me, my name's Diana Willis. I am in the human resources space. I consider myself a business person first who happens to know an awful lot about human resources. And I've always operated that way. My background, I have grown up professionally in the technology space. So I've been in this space from the earlier days of laptop computers, I'll age myself a little bit, semiconductor industry, the hardware, that space, moving into the software space, moving into the VR, AR space. And so you have a bit of that arc in my background there, and now involved with robotics. And so my passion and what I'm absolutely thrilled about is that my career has been able to follow that passion. So that's a little bit about who I am. Now, by virtue of that, I've come into contact with and been able to work with just some amazing people and amazing minds in this space of AI and humanoid robotics, all focused around how do we leverage these things inside of the various contexts that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, a practical basis. How do we apply this into the business environment, to our teams, to our organizations, to helping to achieve amazing, important, critical things for humanity, the evolution of humanity? Fascinating space, fascinating topic. And I'm so excited that everybody is here today on this one. So this one, the pragmatic, practical space, is how can we actually transform the work experience around hybrid and remote work, transform that experience through utilizing AI and robotics. All right. So here's the challenge. A lot of organizations, they fail to be successful in the space of remote and hybrid work. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that often, we face these issues where people feel isolated from each other. There's a geographic distance, and people can start to feel isolated, that they don't have a team, that they can just, trot down the hallway and pop your head in the door and say, hey, I'm here. How you doing? Right? So that can lead to potentially a sense of isolation from your colleagues, from your work colleagues. Now, there are also communication barriers, okay? So even just this, how long have we been doing Zooms? And it took me like 30 seconds, or maybe it was a minute, to get the video up and running, right? How many of us now in our lexicon, our language, we say things like, hey, Monica, you're on mute, right? I mean, it's just like these little things that now have become part of our natural. So that's a technology communication barrier, but then there are also other communication barriers that can happen. One of the reasons that I love being here with you live today is that you can see me. You can see the expression on my face. When I say I'm excited about something, you can see I'm excited about it, all right? That's an important element of communication. And there's some amazing work that's being done in the world of AI and robotics right now around facial recognition and being able to interpret expression. We'll go into that in another session. Really, really cool stuff. So communication is another really critical element. How can I best understand somebody if I'm not there in the room with them? If I don't have the opportunity to be able to see them, see their eyes, right? Often people will get on to a Zoom, for example, and they'll turn their cameras off, right? So you're talking to a picture of the person. Immediately there's a block of communication that's happened. So for a remote hybrid organization to be successful, we need to be willing to open up all of those channels, right? To look for these ways of how can we really get past these barriers that create isolation, that break down effective communication, that have the impact of reducing collaboration, all right? So in the hybrid work environment, again, a practical application that we all are dealing with in our work environments. So in that environment, rather than just default back to, well, we're going to, bring everybody back into the office as soon as we're allowed to, we're going to do that, which we can talk a little bit about that and how that's been creating some challenges for organizations, and turnover rates just go through the roof. If you mandate a return back to the office, there is information out there, statistics that's out there that demonstrates how turnover goes through the roof, because let's also face it, we're balancing the flexibility that humans also enjoy, the autonomy that humans also enjoy. So rather than swing the pendulum completely the other direction, let's talk about how do we use technology, AI, and humanoid robotics to build and strengthen the connections, the communication, the collaboration that can happen in basically a work environment whose walls have gone from being these physical walls to walls being, maybe it's time zones, or maybe it's just multiple offices all around the world. That's what we want to focus in on. So that's a little bit of the challenge that we're facing, okay? So here are 3 areas I want to do a deep dive into for this conversation here. First off, let's talk a little bit about smart communication and collaboration. So that's the first area. The other 2 areas I'm going to go to, if you like to take notes and you just want to jot it down in an outline format. First area is going to be smart communication and collaboration. How AI-driven communication platforms can streamline these kinds of interactions. Next, second area will be around virtual team building and engagement. A couple of really cool tools that are out there I'm going to mention to you at that point as well. Some things that we've been playing around with a little with our teams, all right? Next is, and the third area will be around workflow optimization and personal assistance, okay? So again, how do we leverage tools to create more efficiency, more effectiveness, greater collaboration for our organizations that just happen to be geographically dispersed? All right. So let's dive into that first one real quick. So smart communication and collaboration. So in this area, what I want you to think about is that one of the intentions behind AI and humanoid robotics is to understand how humans operate. There's a great course that's offered through MIT that is focused around AI and its application to business strategy, how you can differentiate your organization around its business strategy by leveraging and embedding AI and humanoid robotics into your operations, not as a product, but into your operations. So one of the underlying premises, as I mentioned, is around how AI can understand human interaction. When we have that understanding, we start to see how AI, as we're interacting with it, again, you know, we've touched on things like ChatGPT and cloud AI again, and I know a plethora of others that are out there. Some of the work that NVIDIA is doing is absolutely mind-blowing. Some of the work that's coming out of Google and Microsoft, you know, in there is natural language. And the language learning models are designed to learn from humans, okay? So from that standpoint, when we look at technologies that we're able to bring in, whether it is a tool like Otter AI, for example, that allows you to record and to interact, and it starts to pick up sentiment, it starts to pick up key elements of a discussion, of a dialogue that's taking place. Those kinds of tools are actually very powerful in helping to amp up the connections that happen, okay? So these are smart communication tools. These are the kinds of tools that we want to be looking for that actually leverage the technology to help us better understand the intelligence that's happening when people are coming together. Because what I mean by that is we each come with an element of intelligence, but then as we come together, there's a whole new level, another level of intelligence that happens by virtue of that network, if you will, okay? So these technologies, these kinds of smart communication and collaboration focused tools, they help us start to pick up a more immersive understanding of the dynamic of a team. So imagine, rather than Susie is off in Massachusetts and Jamie is sitting over in China and Ankit's in India. And, you know, rather than thinking about our team that way, through the use of these kinds of tools, we can actually start to plug into what is the effect, those cultural effects. What is the dynamic? What is the sentiment that's working in there? All right. So that's the first way and first element to think about how we can leverage these technologies. Another way, the second way, let's talk a little bit about virtual team building and engagement. So in this space, we're starting to see a little bit more of the AI, or I'm sorry, the AR, so augmented reality and virtual reality tools starting to make their way into the work environment. All right. So I'll give you an example. There's a tool called Gather, and Gather creates, it's still in its infancy, I would say, having played with it a little bit and worked with it with a small team over the last several weeks. It's still in its infancy. It has a little bit of a gamified feel to it. But what it's intending to do is to create a virtual office that we all then participate in. So while our desks are separated by thousands of miles, when we come together inside of the Gather environment, we're able to actually move our little avatar around an office. And when we get in close proximity, here's where the really cool thing is. As we get into closer proximity, if there's a conversation happening between two people, you can actually start to hear it the closer you get. And what occurs is as you bring your avatars closer together in this virtual environment, your camera can turn on, your microphone can turn on, and now we're able to actually interact and we see each other. So literally, it's as if we're sitting here in this kind of environment having our conversation. Then as we move our avatars apart from each other, the camera goes off, the audio goes off, and we're busy doing our work. So it is an attempt to create that environment of the virtual team building, virtual team engagement by leveraging known technologies, Zoom, for example, the camera, the audio, FaceTime, whatever those technologies are, and to put it in the context of a virtual familiar setting. So now I can walk down the hallway, the virtual hallway, so to speak, and I can, pop into Sam's office and say, hey, Sam, I'm here. Do you have a few minutes? And Sam can say, yep, I have time, or nope, sorry, I'm busy with this right now. So we create that sense of team and collaboration. Pretty cool stuff, right? So these are some of the tools that we want to be seeing as they come about. And I really want to encourage, if you're not working with these kinds of tools yet, definitely check them out, test them out, grab a couple of your colleagues, play around with a little bit of it. All right. There's a lot more coming out. Oculus is doing some work with HP. Again, some of the tools that are coming available to us. And again, still a little in their infancy because they're, we're still kind of learning how to use them. But man, let's get out there. Let's try these things. All right. And let's bring that back into this conversation, ways that we're using these tools. All right. The third area is one that I think we're a little more familiar with. It's almost in some respects been a starting point, and that's around the workforce or the workflow optimization, right? So workflow optimization is kind of a natural progression of artificial intelligence. So in a workflow optimization environment, this is where some of the robotics starts to come in, the humanoid robotics, and also RPA, so robotic process automation. That's where some of these tools start to come in. And in that particular space, what we're doing is that we're looking for ways to optimize the routine tasks. Why is that important when we're talking about remote and hybrid work environments? One of the advantages of remote and work and hybrid work environments is that we can tap into exceptional knowledge and skills anywhere in the world. And when we do that, don't we really want to be tapping into the best genius that we all bring to the table? So for example, rather than have me sit at my desk inputting data into a system, all right, wouldn't it be more advantageous for us to leverage the technologies to generate the data, to run the workflows, to generate more data upon which those technologies can learn and can help optimize our teams, and have me focused on what our AI strategy is going to be, what our technology strategy is going to be, how we're going to source and test and implement and use these kinds of strategies from an HR perspective or from a business leader perspective in order to differentiate what we do out in the market, in order to differentiate and accelerate the achievement of our vision. Wouldn't that really be what you would want me to be focusing my time on? So one of our goals is to utilize these technologies in ways to help automate routine tasks. And I think we've got some good examples, and we're doing quite a bit of that. All right. But we want to take it a step further, and we want to leverage other technologies that allow us to prioritize work, that allow us to decide what is, from an HR standpoint, what is a tier 1, all right, versus what is that higher level of assessment and effectiveness and the nuanced elements and the decision making, so I can make data-driven decisions. That's where we want to be tapping into. All right. So this is a really important question for all of us. And again, I think it's safe to say that the remote and hybrid work environment is not going away. First off, the truth is it always existed. What's also true is that it has proliferated. And the question is, are organizations, and those organizations as HR professionals, those where we're focused on those people strategies, where we're focused on those pieces, are we going to embrace ways to optimize in that work environment, to focus the skills and the efforts, to really be able to build into that and leverage these technologies, these kinds of tools to do that? There's another great tool that's out there called social mobility. Go check that one out. Social mobility kind of gives us the way of being able to, again, how do we create and leverage regardless of where people are in the world? Does that sound familiar? There were times in our conversation as HR professionals, not in the too distant past, where we were asking ourselves questions of, well, how do we support the mobility of our workforce in order to move them into other parts of the organization, other geographies for our multinational companies, where we can move them around so that our team can develop the skills to operate in different cultures, can develop the skills to manage across borders and time zones. So let's leverage that. Let's take advantage of these things. All right. So from that perspective, a few of the things that, I think are really the potential outcomes, the opportunities for us with the technologies, exploring AI and robotics, humanoid robotics. I barely even touched on that one. I had a post earlier this week on my LinkedIn. If anybody had a chance to see it, it just blew my mind. It was the world's first news conference with humanoid robotics or humanoid robots. And they were all on the panel, and the news people were asking them various questions. And here they are interviewing, posing these questions to the humanoid robots. And a couple of things just blew my mind. First off, this news conference taking place at all was absolutely incredible and incredibly exciting. Second, that I really was impressed by was the diversity of the panel, the diversity of the skills that were on the panel, and the intention with which each of the robots were being designed. One is an artist, one is in nursing care, one is a advocate, what's the word? What's the word? Advocate is an advocate for humanoid robotics. All right. Another one is a professor, and the professor teaches through, the person teaches through the robot, and the robot takes on more and more of the professor's being. It's absolutely incredible. absolutely amazing to see. If you haven't had a chance, visit it on my LinkedIn post, and I hope you'll get as excited about it as I will. There were also a couple other things I thought were absolutely fascinating. Maybe we'll save that for our next conversation. Let me just summarize a couple of things in terms of transforming the work dynamics and the opportunity that we have. First of all, we know that with these technologies, we can absolutely streamline our communications and our collaboration. With that commitment of streamlining our communication, our collaboration through the existence or the context of remote and hybrid work, that's where the opportunity exists to bring in these AI tools, these tools that are focused around smart communications, around virtual team building and engagement, these tools that are focused around optimizing the workforce and providing the assistance, the personal assistance tool sets. We also know that we can improve team cohesion. And that starts to get to one of those first challenges I mentioned, which is how do we create and maintain and sustain the sense of connection? How do we do that without defaulting back to the old approach, so to speak? Not that there's anything wrong with getting together in person. Please do not misquote me on that. But how do we streamline and build connection and relatedness across multiple contexts, in person, remote, hybrid, across all of those? And there are absolutely ways to do that, as you're hearing. All right. And then again, also business pragmatism. So how do we continue to focus on, if we call it the ROI? So I heard a great little quote. I'm going to credit one of my colleagues on this great little quote. It was AI, so artificial intelligence, plus HI, human intelligence, equals ROI. I just thought that was brilliant. It's that intersection, AI and HI, human intelligence and automatic or artificial intelligence equals ROI. AI plus HI equals ROI. Great little piece. That fundamentally gets down to how do we leverage all of these tools, regardless of the work context? How do we leverage these kinds of tools to increase productivity and efficiency? And we know one of the ways is that we can take absolutely mundane tasks and automate those tasks. We can bring a more balanced, flexible integration to our teams and be thinking about a business structure and a business team environment and office is no longer the four walls around you. It is now around the globe 24/7. So I hope that you found this conversation really exciting. I think there are a couple of key skills we've got to continue to carry forward as HR practitioners, as entrepreneurs, as leaders in our businesses. Those key skills, I believe, they focus around adaptability and curiosity, continuing to develop those skills of adaptability and curiosity. How do we develop those? How do we train for them? How do we keep that alive in our organizations and for ourselves? And how do we hire for those? Those two skills, I think, are absolutely core, and they make this conversation exciting. I get thrilled by it. And I want to let everybody know that there are a couple of people that I've started reaching out to, and we're looking for actually to come into this conversation. I'll give you a couple of names right now. George Chanos, if you're familiar with him, he is the author of the book Millennial Samurai, came out a couple of years ago. Fascinating book, absolutely incredible. He was also the Attorney General for the city of Las Vegas, or for Nevada rather. Absolutely incredible conversationalist, big thought leader and thinker. And we've been in conversation on this particular topic in this area now for about 6 months. I want to get him in here for part of our conversation going forward. Also have Brian Johnson, who is a big thought leader and a philosopher. He brings together that component of human capacity and human capability from a philosophical standpoint, and then drops it down into the business environment. So in both of these cases, you're going to hear that kind of conversation. The third person is a lady by the name of Claudia Wells. If you don't know Claudia, she is the chairman of the board and the CEO for Institute of Noetic Science. Excuse me. Absolutely an amazing big thinker, has some clear and articulate perspective in this particular area of how the human net, if you will, how that human net ultimately connects and serves as the platform upon which our AI and our robotics are evolving. So I'm excited to bring her into the conversation. Absolutely. I love the dialogue, love the points that people are bringing up here. Thank you so much for this interaction conversation. I'm super excited about getting together again next week. We'll get our topic out shortly. If you're not already on our list, please sign up. We're at hrtrendsetter.com, hrtrendsetter.com. I believe in the passion of AI, technology, that intersection with humanity. What we're doing in our organizations, in our businesses, is absolutely critical. And I think it's just an absolutely exciting time to be in this conversation. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic weekend. And I just need to get some water. Thank you so much. It is absolutely great to see everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.